What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Blinded by the Light, movie out about a kid growing up in UK 1987, and he's struggling kind of to find his own identity. He's passionate about writing. He writes lyrics for a friend of his, also, has a diary, writes some poetry, but kind of stuck in a place where he doesn't know who he is, and he's, an immigrant from his parents, came from Pakistan to the UK, so he's also dealing with the racism of the time, which is sad that 1987 racism seems like it could be today. Maybe more guns used today than in 87. But so it's an interesting movie following this character, this kid who, while in high school, finds out he's introduced to Bruce Springsteen, and through the lyrics of Bruce Springsteen, it inspires him. It becomes his identity. He becomes one with Bruce, one with the boss, as it were. There's also, in addition to this movie, if you would like to, there's a podcast, Culturally Relevant, with David Shen. He interviews somebody that wrote an article based on this, where he had similar kind of from the vantage point of being like a Middle Eastern, was it East Asian? Is that what the proper term? Being East Asian, growing up and kind of in a different location, him being in the U.S. versus U.K. of this movie. But anyway, culturally relevant, check it out. Blinded by the Light episode. I don't know exactly which episode it was, but just a great movie. It's kind of like a musical in a sense. Like, there's moments where the lyrics of the songs, the Bruce Springsteen songs, kind of become part of the visuals of the show or of the movie. They break out into song at times, which I enjoy. It was kind of like a blended bit of a musical, where a lot of musicals, it's kind of in and out of like musical fantasy world and then like real world. This kind of reminded me of what's that movie called with Bjork? Blind, not blind. What the fuck? Of course I'm not. I'm like my brain is shutting down on Dancer in the Dark. Definitely much, not tonally the same type of movie, but as far as musical elements and how they are embedded into the movie with Dancer in the Dark, she's losing her sight. She works at a factory, so because she can't see very well, it's all about the sounds that she encounters throughout her day at the factory and how those sounds almost sync together into music, and there's musical numbers where she's, kind of drifting into listening to the sounds around her, and musicals break out. But it's a very dark movie. Very dark movie. Lars von Trier, I think, director. But anyway, so it kind of has, as far as handling music and bleeding music into this kind of reality, it's a fun movie. A movie about, being passionate about art, seeing how the power of music, especially in those times, like growing up when you're trying to find your identity in high school, and you learn, like, you find music that like speaks to you, that it's like, it's so crazy that you're like listening to this song and it's like, what the fuck? It's like, this person knows my life. So there's a power of that. I'm not specifically a Bruce Springsteen fan. I'm like, I'm aware of his music, familiar with, I'd probably maybe recognize a Springsteen song if it's on. But I enjoy it, like, as far as his lyrics and like kind of this movie highlighting the writing that Springsteen does in his songs, I appreciated, especially this kid that wants to be a writer, listening to the lyrics and kind of how they are able to use different methods to kind of introduce the lyrics in text form on screen. It kind of highlights the lyrics themselves and just kind of makes this a love letter to poetry in a lot of ways. I've also heard this movie be referred to as a jukebox biopic or jukebox musical, where it's basically kind of similar to Yesterday, where it's this movie that has a lot to do with music, and because of that, you get to hear a lot of the music, but the narrative of the movie has nothing to do necessarily with the music itself. Like, this is like a Bruce Springsteen kind of a movie, but it's more about a kid kind of finding his own voice in a lot of ways, or at least him starting the journey to find his own voice, because he goes so hard into the Springsteen lifestyle that there's a lot of friction, especially coming from his he has the traditions of his family, religious traditions, being Muslim, and kind of him coming up against that and rebelling against those things, and being selfish in a lot of ways for, that's a lot of kids. When you finally get your independence, being selfish is something that you may not have been able to do in your life, like being able to have the freedom to do whatever you want, especially being like coming from a strict upbringing, kind of having those rebellious moments where you can be free. It's a time when you be selfish, and you can anybody when their life becomes a selfish pursuit, can fall victim to becoming an asshole to people. And this movie highlights that amongst a lot of other things, but it's about, following your passion, which also, it affected me emotionally. I really enjoyed this movie. It's a really fun kind of a movie, even if you're like not a fan of Bruce Springsteen, but and also fun to see a movie that's not based in the U.S., right? Like you get the extra flavor of the U.K., which I enjoy. Like, you could have a normal zombie movie that's in the U.S., or you can have Shaun of the Dead, where you get that extra layer of like what it would be like to have a zombie apocalypse in a small town in the U.K. It's just sad to see also racism. That we're still that things really haven't changed that much since the 50s. It's just people have kind of, they know they can't. They've never been able to be open about the racism until somebody in charge made it very comfortable for people to be open about their hate and racism. But yeah, Blinded by the Light, another just great independent movie that I would highly recommend people watch if you're a fan of like that kind of movie about a kid finding his voice, following his passion, musical moments. It's just an all around, top to bottom, really good, fun movie. So go watch it for sure. For sure. Blinded by the Light. New episodes of this show come out every single day. Go to YouTube, IGTV, all the podcast apps to subscribe, rate, and review. Buy my original artwork over at inspireddisorder.com and save 25% when you use coupon code RTS. Follow me on all social media at Ray Taylor. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!